I'm Matt McClure, and this is Currents. There is definitely heated rhetoric, but is there hope for the U.S. economy? We'll have the latest on the debt ceiling debate. Plus, Bishop DiMarzio goes into the deep on the debt and more.
As everybody has to balance their budget, just as the diocese does, and individual households, we should come up with a balanced budget.
And 2 thumbs up for Harry Potter. Will the Vatican newspaper's approval give the boy wizard a boost at the box office?
In this summer of absolutely dreadful films, I think that a lot of moviegoers will enjoy the epic spectacle of this film.
Well, good evening, and thanks so much for joining us tonight. It has been described as catastrophic, Armageddon, and economic doom of biblical proportion. And what it is what many predict to be the terrible consequences to the U.S. economy if Congress cannot make a deal on the debt and can't make it soon. A deadline that was very much on the agenda at President Barack Obama's press conference today.
All the congressional leaders have reiterated the desire to make sure that the United States does not default on our obligations and that the full faith and credit of the United States is preserved. That is a good thing. I think we should not even be this close to a deadline.
And yet the American people are at the 11th hour watching the debt debate rage on in Congress as the clock ticks. CNN's Kate Baldwin has more.
The Federal Reserve Chairman on Capitol Hill repeated his stern warning that default could cause chaos.
I think it would be a calamitous outcome. It would create a very severe financial shock that would have effects not only in the U.S. economy but on the global economy.
And the Obama administration's top money man, flanked by Senate Democrats, reminded lawmakers of what's at stake.
We've looked at all available options, and we have no way to give Congress more time to solve this problem, and we're running out of time. And the eyes of the country are on us.
Despite the ominous words, talks to resolve the debt crisis are stuck, and the finger-pointing continues.
If the president wants to threaten seniors or veterans or rattle the world economy by pretending he can't pay our bills, he, of course, can do that. But he's not going to implicate Republicans in these efforts.
Democrats singled out the number 2 House Republican, Eric Cantor, even calling him, quote, childish.
Leader Cantor has yet to make a constructive contribution to these discussions. More than anything else, he is holding up an agreement at this point.
Meantime, top Republican leaders sought to present a unified front Thursday amid talk of a rift between Cantor and House Speaker John Boehner, leading to one of the lighter moments of these negotiations.
Let me just say, we have been in this fight together. And any suggestion that the role that Eric has played in these meetings has been anything less than helpful is just wrong.
And as the meetings continue at the White House, it could be, if there's a light at the end of the tunnel, it's on Capitol Hill. Senators Mitch McConnell and Harry Reid working on a possible way out of the debt stalemate.
We don't have it worked out yet, but it's something that we're looking to. Hopefully we can come up with this big, robust deal that we've been trying to get, but until we do that, we're going to have to look at other alternatives, and his is one of them.
It's a complex plan that would allow the president to raise the debt ceiling and also allow Congress to vote against it, to disapprove of him doing so. It may also set up a commission to recommend spending cuts and may include some of the spending cuts already agreed to in these debt talks. The idea got a big boost Thursday from House Speaker John Boehner, who said in the absence of anything else, it's a worthy option.
Well, that was CNN's Kate Baldwin there. Now, in the latest on the never-ending debt ceiling saga, House Republicans announcing today that they will take a vote next week on their self-described cut, cap, and balance plan, which they say identifies $6.2 trillion in deficit savings over the next 10 years. And we'll have much more on the debt ceiling talks coming up later on in the show with Bishop Nicholas DiMarzio. He and I will go into the deep on that topic. But stay with us. Could the seal of the confession be broken in Ireland? We'll have that story and more next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Matt McClure. Coming up later, the final Harry Potter film is out. So is there morality in all the magic? That's coming up. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Boston Archbishop Cardinal Sean O'Malley has cleared the way now for 6 parishes in his archdiocese to be sold. O'Malley announced Thursday the buildings have been relegated to what is called profane use, meaning they can be used for things other than Catholic worship. The churches can be sold for use in an appropriate and dignified manner. The archdiocese closed the parishes back in 2004, but O'Malley allowed every means of appeal before coming to a final decision. Now, former parishioners have been holding around-the-clock vigils at 3 of the churches since they were closed. A historic first in education. California Governor Jerry Brown has signed a bill requiring public schools to teach about the contributions of homosexual Americans. Brown said the landmark law ensures that the important contributions of Americans from all backgrounds and walks of life are included in history books in his state. Los Angeles Archbishop Jose Gomez, though, has condemned the new law, saying that it amounts to the government rewriting history books based on pressure group politics. Well, some news now on the 2012 race for the White House. Michelle Bachmann's former church is defending its teaching that the papacy is the Antichrist. A spokesman for the Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod says the teaching is not one of the church's driving views and is not something that's preached from the pulpit. The spokesman says, though, that the church follows the teachings of Martin Luther, but it does, quote, love and respect Catholics. Bachmann requested to leave her church 6 days before officially launching her bid for the White House. In a 2006 debate, she insisted she is not anti-Catholic, calling such views abhorrent and religious bigotry. The Wisconsin Evangelical Lutheran Synod is not associated with the larger Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. Well, a government minister in Ireland says the sacrament of confession will not be exempt from mandatory reporting of sexual abuse. Under new government disclosure proposals, priests in Ireland could be jailed for up to 5 years if they fail to disclose information on abuse, even if the priest learned about it while hearing confession. A church law forbids priests from revealing anything they hear during confession. Ireland's children's minister says she's not concerned, neither is the government, about the internal laws, the rules governing any body. The proposals come just days after officials released a report accusing the Vatican of blocking Irish bishops' efforts to enact strict guidelines on abuse in 1996. Well, from China, the government-backed church has ordained yet another bishop without the Vatican's approval. We get details on that story from Rome Reports.
8 Chinese bishops in communion with the Pope were forced to participate in the illicit ordination of Father Joseph Huang Bingzang. This is the first ordination since the Bishop of Lisan was officially excommunicated. The Vatican has told the Chinese faithful to resist these ordinations as much as possible. In this most recent ceremony, it's estimated that around 1,500 people attended from the Diocese of Shantou, which is home to 140,000 faithful. A Monsignor Pie Junmin was also required to attend, but he was able to resist thanks to the protection by the priest in his diocese. The ordination of Father Joseph Huang Bingzang is the 3rd illicit ordination by the Church of China. The Vatican has issued several warnings that anyone willfully participating in the ordinations will be excommunicated.
Vatican spokesman Father Federico Lombardi says the situation there is being followed with sorrow and concern. He told Catholic News Agency that the ordinations are very negative for the unity of the Church. And Italian police have arrested the man they believe dressed as a priest to flee a jewel heist. The man is believed to be the one seen in some surveillance video wearing a long black cassock and a wide-brimmed black hat. According to Reuters, the man is seen on the video carrying a shopping bag immediately after a robbery at a prestigious jewelry store near Rome's Spanish Steps. He's being held at, appropriately enough, Queen of Heaven Jail on the Tiber River. Well, stay tuned. There is more Currents ahead. Coming up, morality and the debt limit debate. Bishop DiMarzio weighs in.
Clearly, if we're going to cut services, they have to, if they're vital services for people, then there should be some responsibility we bear for that. All at the same time, you know, taxation is not something that is unlimited.
welcome back. Balancing budgets. Well, if the current back and forth at our nation's capital is any indication, deciding what to cut and what to cap can lead to some extremely tough decision making. Whether you're balancing your budget at home, you're balancing it at a parish, or for a diocese, you're certainly going to face some difficult choices in your efforts to balance the books. And with just 18 days left before the U.S. hits its August 2nd deadline to raise the debt ceiling or default on its debt, the pressure is on Democrats and Republicans to come to the table and make those tough choices. Now, when your job includes the financial health of hundreds of parishes, you certainly come to learn a thing or two about budgets and budget negotiations. And today I had a chance to speak with Brooklyn's Bishop, Nicholas DiMarzio, who went into the deep to weigh in on the debt discussion and deadlock. Bishop DiMarzio, thanks so much for being here.
Good to be here again.
Really appreciate it very much. Now, of course, we're in a bit of at least a political crisis in Washington anyway, with all of this talk about the debt ceiling and the nation's debt. And the argument seems to focus around either raising taxes for the rich to make up revenue or cutting services, mainly for those who are poor or elderly, Medicare, Social Security, that kind of thing. Is there any sort of official church stance, or have the bishops taken a stand on where to go as far as this debate goes?
Well, nothing directly on this particular case, but obviously there should be a fair tax burden that everyone shares, no matter who you are, proportionately. There are those, I'm not saying the church does, but the whole flat tax idea may be one solution to the problem that we see of people feeling they're taxed disproportionately. Again, it's a difficult call, but this is what legislators' responsibility have, figuring out how to balance a budget. Unfortunately now, we're just borrowing money to keep going the way we're going. And we, as everybody, has to balance their budget, just as the diocese does, and individual households. We should come up with a balanced budget where the income and the expenditures somewhat balance. We just can't do it by continually borrowing money. Now, we're in particular crisis situations. You have wars going on. You have other things that are unexpected. But there should be a rethinking, I think, of the whole taxation problem and how we balance budgets. I think that's a responsibility of legislators.
Sure. What are the moral implications of this debate that we're having right now?
Well, I think the moral implications are clearly, if we're going to cut services, they have to, if they're vital services for people, then there should be some responsibility we bear for that. All at the same time, you know, taxation is not something that is unlimited, that everyone that has a dollar should, you know, give half of it back to the government. That's probably not a good idea either. So there are prudential calls, judgment calls. There's really nothing that you can say, well, there's a clear moral stance that this is wrong and that's right. No, you have to use prudential judgments to figure out how you can do what's right for the common good in our society.
Sure. Now, you brought up, you know, obviously a few minutes ago, the diocese having to make, you know, live within its means. And obviously that comes with some very difficult decisions that have to be made. And the diocese has made a lot of those decisions here recently and is in that process of sort of reorganization. Are there any lessons learned from that process that maybe, I guess, would come in handy for people in Washington to kind of grab hold of?
Well, I think, again, consultation is part of it. As much as you can, let people know why you're doing certain things. I think we've been fairly successful. Everybody's not happy about things, but I don't think they understand the debt. Again, parishes are in debt, indebted to the diocese, indebted to other people. Therefore, they can't keep going that way. There isn't an unlimited line of credit that you can be extended. So that people have to understand that. And I think that's part of what the issue is, that people don't understand. It's such a mega issue for most people to get their arms around and say, what do you mean, raise the debt ceiling? What are we doing? And then we realize that most of the debt is held by China. Yeah. So we're indebted to a foreign nation, you know, that has control now over our monetary system. Something's not right someplace. We've got to look at this very carefully.
Right, right, and it's definitely, you know, some long-term solutions or something that's absolutely needed. Well, speaking of raising the debt ceiling, something else that has to be raised this weekend is the Giglio. I know that you like that segue? It's
yeah, it was pretty good.
I used to be an FM radio DJ, can you tell? No, the Giglio does have to be raised again this weekend.
Yeah.
It was last weekend for one of the dances of the Giglio in Williamsburg at Our Lady of Mount Carmel. Another one coming up this weekend. You'll be there as well on Saturday, I understand, celebrating Mass. Yes. Tell us a little bit about the Giglio and your involvement.
Well, the Giglio, again, is a tradition that comes with St. Paulinus of Nola. Came to the United States from Italy with the immigrants from Nola, and they have done this for now over 100 years there. And the Giglio is a construction of, I think it's about 4 tons. About 100 men lifted. They only lifted about 6 inches, though. It isn't like they're lifting it too high. It's very difficult. And they do move it, and this dance of it is basically swaying back and forth. Basically, it's a traditional honor. But what it is, that the men who do this, they're a spiritual preparation. I mean, they are really, they see this not just as a traditional thing, but as a spiritual thing also. That they're responsible for this, that there's prayer, that there's preparation, there's days of recollection. So it is a wonderful, thing, in a sense, bringing these people together and that tradition that strengthens the parish. And it's combined with the Feast of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, which is actually on the 16th. The Feast of St. Paulinus is the 22nd of June, but they just transfer it so they do everything together. And it's a wonderful, thing, a traditional thing, but also faith-filled thing. You see people in the procession and praying, numerous masses in various languages there. So it's a great celebration in Mount Carmel.
Well, wonderful. And of course, we'll be there covering it this weekend, and we'll have more for our viewers on Monday. Bishop DiMarzio, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
Always great to have the bishop here, and talking about raising the debt ceiling and raising the Giglio. Not a bad deal. We got him on 2 topics at once. I like it. Stay with us. There is more Currents coming up. When we return, school is out. The Harry Potter film series comes to an end with a blessing from the Vatican.
There's a grand, even operatic scope to this film that I think that you could feel some of the other films striving for without ever really getting.
And finally tonight, class is officially dismissed at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry as the latest installment of the mega successful Harry Potter franchise. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 brings the enduring saga of teen witches and wizards to a stunning end. Despite the undisputed worldwide popularity of the Harry Potter series, the movies and books did have their critics. Perhaps the most notable foe of the supernatural thriller was the Vatican. Back in 2005, letters written by Pope Benedict XVI when he was Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, well, they surfaced, and they surfaced online, as a matter of fact. Those letters condemning the Potter books as, quote, subtle seductions that could potentially corrupt young Christians. But then you fast forward to 2011, and the Vatican newspaper, L'Osservatore Romano, is praising the Deathly Hallows for championing the values of friendship and sacrifice. So what produced that about-face, or that seeming about-face anyway? Well, something tells me it had to be more than just movie magic. It's official, Pottermania has begun. After 7 movies based on J.K. Rowling's popular series of books, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 opened in theaters today.
Let's finish this the way we started. Together!
Anticipation ran high, with fans camping out in front of theaters days ahead of the opening, and Fandango reporting the film pre-sold more tickets for late night and early morning screenings than any other movie in history. 32 million, in fact, as evidenced by packed houses for midnight showings across the country last night.
It's a good movie and great series.
I'm really excited to see the movie because I want to see how the whole story ends.
I've really enjoyed watching all the kids grow up throughout all the movies.
It's a family thing for us.
And the fans are not the only ones singing the series' praises. The Potter finale is getting phenomenal reviews from the critics. At last check, the critics' website Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 97% fresh rating. And even the official Vatican paper, L'Osservatore Romano, chimed in with a positive review, taking particular note of the underlying themes of friendship and sacrifice demonstrated by the 3 main characters. But film critic Stephen Greydonis of the website Decent Films Guide and Net's Real Faith program says those who claim that the Pope has succumbed to Potter fever are off the mark.
The Vatican has not approved of this film, and Pope Benedict hasn't condemned Harry Potter. The Holy Father and the Holy See really have better things to do than go around making pronouncements on fantasy franchises. In the case of this film, what happened is that a positive review ran of the film in L'Osservatore Romano, which is the semi-official newspaper of the Vatican.
The Vatican paper also warned that given the darker tone and some disturbing images, the film may not be suitable for younger children.
A child at the appropriate age to watch some of the earlier episodes is not going to be ready to watch the later episodes. But in addition to some areas that have attracted concern, the Harry Potter books also have morally positive elements and even elements that have attracted Christian attention.
And while there are still Christians who oppose these stories filled with witches, wizards, and magic, many have endorsed the series, going so far as to point to Harry Potter as a popular role model for children. A far cry from the controversy surrounding the books as they first became popular in the mid-90s.
There's been a lot of different opinions among Catholics on the Harry Potter phenomenon. The big controversy, of course, has to do with magic. In our faith, any attempted magic in the real world is morally forbidden. It's contrary to the First Commandment.
The fact that there was kind of like witchcraft, I think that kind of turned some Christians off.
I don't see the problem with it, really.
There is room, some room, in fantasy and fiction for an imaginative setting in which the moral rules are different. Some of the Christian symbolism in the Harry Potter stories, a lot of the mythology were used by the medieval Christians as symbols of Christ or of redemption.
When you look at it from a different perspective, you can kind of get to the fact that there are those additional underlying themes there.
So will the fans' expectations be met? Stephen Graydonis thinks so.
There's a grand, even operatic scope to this film that I think that you could feel some of the other films striving for without ever really getting. So I think I enjoyed it more than any of the others. I think that it's really the grand climax that Harry Potter's fans have been hoping for, and in this summer of absolutely dreadful films, I think that a lot of moviegoers will enjoy the epic spectacle of this film.
I'll admit to being a little bit excited to see the film this weekend. I've always been kind of a big Harry Potter fan. Well, I'm a fan of the movies. I've read several of the first books, but not any of the later ones. But anyway, you grow up and that kind of thing. But I still see the movies, and I kind of can't wait. And there are those spiritual undertones that are there, and good triumphs over evil in the end. We already know that. So what good can't come out of that, with good triumphing over evil? I like that outcome. Well, that is it for this edition of Currents, but that's not it for the great programming you've come to expect to find here on NET. Are you not a Harry Potter fan, unlike me? Well, that's okay. NET has got you covered. Just pop some popcorn, sit back, relax, and watch indie films of faith on Faith Film Festival at 8 o'clock. But for you Potter maniacs out there, do not walk out the door until you've checked in with our esteemed movie critics on Real Faith. Stephen Graydonis, who you saw a little bit earlier in that piece on Harry Potter, is part of that show. That's coming up at 8:30 p.m. Will Deathly Hallows get a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Well, you'll have to watch to know. Well, until next time, be sure and visit us online over at currentsny.net. You can go there to watch selected stories and some full broadcasts of the show as well. You can also friend us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @currentsny. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Matt McClure. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night and a great weekend.